Former President Trump is facing several investigations in New York. This week, the New York Attorney General's office announced it's joining the Manhattan District Attorney's office in a criminal probe of the Trump Organization.
The New York Attorney General, Letitia James, in 2019 started a civil investigation of the Trump Organization. Basically, she was asking if they had misled their lenders or misled taxing authorities by inflating the values of their properties. That investigation's been going on for a couple of years now, and it's always been a civil investigation aimed at ending in a lawsuit, some kind of suit for monetary damages. But now the Attorney General has said this week, look, we are also pursuing a criminal investigation. That seems to be an indication that they think they may have some evidence that could prove a criminal charge. So the goal is now both to file a lawsuit and possibly to file criminal charges.
President Trump was almost on the verge of bankruptcy, and then all of a sudden he was flush with money. And we all know that domestic banks were not offering him and extending any credit to him. And so the question is, where did he get all of that money from?
We've talked to people who know that office really well, who say that often the kind of evidence that causes the Attorney General to go from a civil investigation to a criminal one is evidence of intent. She's found evidence basically that somebody knew what they were doing was wrong and did it anyway. That's the difference between a civil and a criminal. Civil investigation is, I found you did something wrong. A criminal investigation is, I know you did something wrong and you knew it too and you did it anyway.
The tax code is intended to help businesses make it through a tough year.
We know the former president's tax returns have been given to the Manhattan DA. It's millions and millions of pages. They got them in February of 2021 after a Supreme Court battle that took more than 2 years and went up to the Supreme Court twice. We don't really know what's been found in them. You can imagine, even with a whole bunch of prosecutors and a bunch of forensic accountants, which they have, it would take a long time to go through millions of pages of tax returns. So they haven't given any indication of what they've found in there or if they think there's any evidence of illegality in there. That's going to come down to some evidence that we don't know that much about yet. So even if they find evidence that the Trump Organization deceived its lenders or deceived taxing authorities, to prove a criminal charge against Donald Trump, you'd have to say Donald Trump knew this, understood that it was wrong, or understood that there were rules against it, and he did it anyway. Now, other white-collar executives, you might prove that by looking at emails. Try to find an email where the person says, gives an explicit order. Donald Trump doesn't use email. And so you'd have to look for other cases of people that were witnesses were in a meeting with him, witnesses took notes on a meeting with him, someone else, like his son, relays, my father says X. It's not going to be a slam dunk email from Donald Trump just because he doesn't use email. That doesn't mean the case is impossible, but it makes human sources, human witnesses much more important.
The Manhattan case about your taxes has now ruled that you do need to turn over your taxes. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, the Supreme Court said if it's a fishing expedition, you don't have to do it. And this is a fishing expedition, but more importantly, this is a continuation of the witch hunt, the greatest witch hunt in history. There's never been anything like it.
Well, the Trump argument is basically that these are political vendettas by Democrats. That's an argument aimed at the press and the public. They certainly seem to be doing a lot of work behind the scenes to fight, in some cases, the requests from these investigators or to comply with them. I think they've done a lot of work to comply and provide documents. It's been a huge amount of work and expense for the Trump Organization behind the scenes. That we don't know how this is going to end. It may end with no charges, in which case Trump will claim exoneration and the money will have been worth it. It may end with charges and a lawsuit or both, in which case the expenses and the legal headaches are probably just beginning for Trump.